Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the railway, and I'm quite excited today because I think I found a really impressive train set for only £50, and it's not just your basic 040 starter set either. So today's train set is going to bemuse you, it's going to impress you, and I expect it's also going to irritate and annoy you, all at the same time probably. I also hope that Hornby are watching this, because for just £18 more than their Hornby Junior train set, this includes an awful lot more, including a little something called play value, which I feel Hornby ought to look into for their next junior train set. Less said about that the better. Anyway, the train set is this. It's made by Mehano, which I'm pleased to find is still in business, and it's called Cargo Train, as you could tell. Now, what can I say about this? Well, first of all, it cost £52.89, I believe, which is a really, really good price for an electric train set. I bought it on Amazon, and if you want to find this train set on Amazon, I've got a link down in the description. They also did a Steam version. Well, it's not the same train set, but they do a Steam train set for a similar price. If you'd like me to review that, do let me know up in the poll, and there's also a link down in the description. For now though, this is going to be really, really interesting. There's an awful lot in it, as I've already said. The first really bemusing thing is that I ordered this from Amazon, as I say, and they didn't package it in a box. It literally just came as a train set like this, with sellotape holding the box shut and a delivery label stuck to the back of it. And when it arrived, I could hear stuff rattling around inside, so I have actually opened this up to make repairs. So if you do order one of these, it's worth adding a note to your order to say, please package it in any way, any packaging, just that will be fine. Don't just send it in its box. Anyway, let's get this out and find out what this one is like. Alright, so Cargo Train, what a title that is. So it's made by Mehano. As I say, they're a Slovenian company, I believe, and I have looked at some of their models before, but I had no idea they were still in business, but clearly they are. So this is the box. It makes some pretty outlandish claims, I would say. As you can see, it's got what appears to be a -2 on there. I think I looked this up, and it's an SD40-2. If I'm wrong about that, please do let me know. As you can see in the top corner here, it also claims not to be just a train set, but it also has what appears to be an entire layout inside, with some horrendously oversized oil drums, and perhaps that's not an oil drum, it looks like one though. We've got some scenery, we've got some containers, all kinds of stuff. The features, it claims we have working lights, and all locomotive wheels are driven, which for 50 odd quid I am struggling to believe. I wouldn't have expected you could get a diesel with all-wheel drive like this, like a -2, for 52 quid, let alone including a controller, an electric track, all the rolling stock and all the scenery. How are they doing this for that price? Is that even true? We have to find that sort of thing out. If I turn the box over, which is difficult because, as we're going to see, it's horribly packed on the inside. That is the downside, and it's probably all going to be broken again. But on the top row there, you can see we have the locomotive and 3 items of rolling stock, which says Soo Line on the side. Yep, go figure. We have this, the big scenic piece, which is interesting. A few buildings, the oil drums. We have 6 containers inside this, which I believe you have to build yourself. I think they are cardboard, like the Hornby Junior was. And then we have the track and such at the bottom, including a controller there, a mains controller. And that's just what I was saying about the Hornby Junior set. For £18 more, you have steel track. I think it's going to be steel track. We'll test it with a magnet. You have an electric locomotive, apparently with all-wheel drive. You have 3 items of rolling stock as opposed to just 2. You've still got all those cardboard buildings. You've got a scenic piece. And obviously, you've got that controller, which is the fun part, isn't it? I mean, being able to control your trains is what it's all about. And of course, because it's an electric locomotive, you can put it onto your 00 or HO layout, and you can use it on there no problem whatsoever. I just think this is far, far better if, and this is a huge if if it all functions properly. And for 52 quid, I'm not 100% convinced that it's going to. We'll have to see. Down below, you can see we have some other accessories that Mehano produce. There's quite an extensive range, really, as you can tell. And over here, there is what appears to be some sort of instructions, but they put the postage label on there, and so I can't really see what they are, but it looks as though they're instructions on how to detail up the layout, which is amazing. This is like the equivalent of the Family Fun project, almost. I mean, not quite. It doesn't have all the glues and the ballasts and everything, but it gives you most of the tools you need, really, doesn't it? And for the price, who can complain? Well, probably me, but we'll see. I'm going to be open to being impressed with this one. Right, now, I urge you to brace yourself, because this is the bemusing part, okay, when I open this up. Ready? Here we go. And the first thing that greets you is this full-sized scale model of an elephant turd, which literally takes up 2/3 of the box. I'm not kidding about that. This bit here is the train set. This bit is the elephant poo, which is insane. In fact, shall we look at that to start with? Because this is quite interesting. I mean, it's incredibly silly, isn't it? I mean, it's a great inclusion, but it's so uneconomical. Oh, hang on. The whole thing, it's attached to the rest of it. Okay, we won't take that out first. Yeah, it just made me laugh when I opened the box, because it's so uneconomical, isn't it? Without this, the box could literally be 1/3 of the size. It's insane. And this is how it came packed, honestly. The track was literally just loose in here. It must be said that this is far below the likes of Hornby. I mean, the track is just, there's a loose bit there, there's the power track, there's another loose bit. The curves are just elastic banded together. Let me grab a magnet and see what sort of track this is. Oh yeah, that's steel track, because it's attracting the magnet. So it's pretty basic track, but once again, for the price, I don't think you can complain. But I do think the quality of the packaging is insanely poor. I don't think that's too harsh to say. So we'll put that track together later on, and we'll talk about the radius of the curves once I've figured out what those are. The rest of the train set has literally just been chucked into these plastic compartments, which are all broken, by the way. First of all then, we have the controller, which I've not actually looked at yet, so let me take this out of the bag. Okay, there we go. It's actually not bad. It feels reasonably heavy. The control knob has got some feedback to it. It's not super easy to turn. Yeah, there's a bit of resistance there. Direction, it says at the bottom. Oh, folks, that is very, very clever. See, why couldn't have Hornby thought of this? This kills 2 birds with 1 stone. So first of all, you don't have a separate switch for the direction. You just wind the control to 0, click it, and the direction changes. That's fantastic. Also, there's no need for that stupid interlock that Hornby have on theirs, where you have to turn the controller down to 0 before you can switch the switch, and it's super irritating. With this one, you have to turn it down to 0, and you just click it. It's just so intuitive. That is brilliant. We'll see how that works. We will double check. It looks, design-wise, very basic, obviously, but it seems to do the job. What's the output? 400 milliamps, 0 to 13 volts, so not dreadfully powerful, but we'll do some testing with that. And then we also have a wall transformer, which does present a bit of a problem, because I ordered the UK version, but this has got the European style 2-prong electric connection, and you'll notice that one of the prongs there is incredibly bent, which means that it wouldn't actually work over in Europe anyway. What is this anyway? What voltage does it take, most importantly? Oh, it does take 240, so I could adapt to that. Yeah, that's fine then. And it outputs 16 volts at 0.5 amp. So there we go. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I definitely bought the UK version, but there's no adapter as far as I can tell. Right, go on then. Let's grab the locomotive, what I think is the Dash 2. Let me move the box out of the way. Okay, there it is. Now, this thing is pretty light. I will weigh it for you in just a second. It doesn't weigh an awful lot, but feeling the wheels, they are all locked up, which means that we do have all 6 axles driven, which is astonishing for the price, isn't it? Less astonishing is that it was packaged so poorly that several of these handrails had broken off, and I've had to painstakingly glue them back on. That was the downside, although again, if it was actually packaged properly, that wouldn't be too much of a problem. Besides that though, once again, if you compare this with the Hornby Junior, bear in mind the fact that this is electric, this has pickups, metal wheels, all of that stuff. It's not bad, is it? On the other hand though, obviously it's not a serious model by any means, although you could probably detail it up. It's not that bad, is it? So that's pretty impressive. What else have we got inside the box then? I'm just going to reach over and show them to you. So we have this wagon. Now again, this is what I was saying about the play value. Look at this, it's a wagon, a pretty good looking wagon, plastic wheels of course, but it's got couplings that you can use with other European rolling stock, which is great. And it's got a load which is removable. So I don't know what these are, they're just sort of cylinders, tubes really, but you can load them and you can unload them. I mean, that is an awful lot of fun, isn't it? You can do quite a lot with that. You can actually do some shunting operations, you can make deliveries and you can make collections. Fantastic. Couple of these then. Now these are confusing. I don't know what Sue line is. I thought it was 500 line, which is a little bit less funny, but yeah, it's definitely Sue line. Yeah, they're very, very basic. They're not very heavy. They've just got plastic wheels. I don't know whether they're based on anything in particular. Yeah, they're not scale models really. These are just entertainment pieces, I think, but hopefully they will work. So there's the green one there, which doesn't look very realistic. There's also a yellow one here. Here it is, which I think does look a little bit more realistic. Whether yellow's a more realistic colour or not in real life, I've no idea. But to me, yeah, that looks just a little bit better. Right, there's quite a lot else in the box, so let me just pull it across so that you can see it here. Right, so I don't know what these are. We'll have to find out. These have got some spare fish plates inside it, in this little bag. And some other stuff stuck to a sprue, which is interesting. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see if there's any instructions with this. But yeah, as it stands, no idea what those are for. Right, well, everything is out of the packaging now, so if I bring the big gong back into shot, we'll get it out and see what it's all about. Yeah, I applaud Mehano for including such a thing, but I can't help but feel a bit underwhelmed by this. Well, yeah, it looks like we've got a sort of valley, so maybe you could do a river. It's clearly also a tunnel, although it's a sealed tunnel. You could probably cut, oh yeah, there's one on the other end as well. So obviously you could probably cut a tunnel mouth for that maybe. And obviously you'd want to cut off this horrible packaging, and you can see just how badly torn up and damaged it is. So yeah, it's both rubbish and interesting at the same time. At the end of the day though, yep, it does look like it's come out of an elephant, which is always a bit concerning for a train set item, isn't it? Okay, well, on top of here we have an instruction set. It says Mehano train line, so I better dare to take a little look at this. Yeah, there's not an awful lot there. It looks as though it just shows you how to put the track together, how to install the track, the controller. It shows you a crane, which I don't have in this pack, but it would be interesting to try it. It looks like a crane. How to couple the rolling stock and such, and then there's just a big block of text, which looks a bit too complicated for me. I think I'd rather just figure things out on my own. And then we've got all this stuff in the bottom. These look like those containers. One's missing, or has it just escaped? Yeah, it's probably just escaped. Anyway, let me show you one of them. So these are, you know, those big containers. What are they? 50 foot, something like that. But there you are. Yep, Maersk. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but yeah, again, play value. That would be something that would be rather fun to put together, I would say. And they're quite nicely printed, so I dare say they'd look all right once you've done them. Right, let me try and get these to one side without them all coming out. Then we have this, which looks like a little garage or a depot or something. What does it say? Plant number 2. Could be a factory building then. Again, this is pretty good stuff, isn't it? This is going to be fun to put together and add onto the layout, which is good. There's the other container. There we go. So again, yeah, we do indeed have 6 then, as the instructions said. MSC, that one, not a brand I'm particularly familiar with. And then we have something in the bottom, which again is something that the Hornby Junior set did not come with. And that is a track mat, or rather several track mats. All right, so it comes in 2 halves, does it? Yeah, I mean, it's made of like card, so it's probably not the best. It's got big creases in it. But yeah, this is pretty good. We've got ocean around the edge. Man, this is filling the screen, isn't it? It reminds me of Farming Simulator, actually. We've got oddly parked tractors. There's some people from above. There's spaces for the... Yeah, that's pretty good. There's spaces for the containers to sit so that the trains can come along and pick them up. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's have a look at what's on the other one. Right. This must be where some of those buildings go. Right, well, we've got a station, as you can see. Yep, there's a station, and yet there's plenty of space for you to add that mountain and other stuff. So, yeah, that's not bad, is it? I mean, it's not the best, but for the money, it's very impressive, isn't it? So let's take a closer look at some of these models then. Obviously, they're not particularly detailed, but I will show you them up close. So let's take a look at this Dash 2 then, if that is indeed what this is. And then we'll try and put it all together and see if it actually functions as a train set. And you know what? I think it's going to. It all seems to be in order, doesn't it, more or less? So if this loco really is an SD40-2, then I think it's worth talking about that because they're quite interesting locomotives. They were introduced way back in January 1972, and a truly massive number of these were built, nearly 4,000 in total. Engines like these have seen use not only in the United States, but also in Canada, Mexico, Brazil, and other countries. Incredibly, they were even produced for the UK. Quite fascinatingly, EMD produced this design for the UK in the form of the Class 59. Obviously, it was just adapted for the British loading gauge, and of course it had a very different looking body style. The oil crisis caused the production of the class to all but dry up from 1981 onwards, and the final example was delivered to the US in 1984, although countries such as Brazil were still taking deliveries as late as 1989, and obviously some of the British Class 59s were built long after that. Nearly all built examples are still in service today. And there it is then, number 3222, and actually I don't think this is too bad when you consider that by the time you've accounted for the cost of everything else in the train set, this thing only costs about 20 quid. That is pretty amazing. Now, it is fairly cheap, it must be said. It's noticeably cheap. It's very light, 250 grams, which is very light for a loco of this size. I think it is largely plastic. The only thing I can see that's not plastic is the wheels. But besides that, from any sort of distance, like this sort of longish shot, for example, it looks absolutely fine, doesn't it? The printed details are okay. Obviously, they're not sort of ultra high standard or anything like that, but they're not stickers also, so that's not too bad. Yep, the printed detail is absolutely fine. There are quite a few separately fitted parts, including these handrails along the sides, which are not particularly fine, and once again, because they're plastic, they're incredibly fragile, and I did have to repair loads and loads of those when it arrived. It's got one or two nice features though. We have glazed windows, which is not too bad. Those have not just been left. We have the separately fitted horns, which are not very nicely moulded, but they are at least separately fitted. The grills at the back ends here are really good. They are not just moulded grills, they are actual grills that you can see through. You can see the bogie mechanism behind, I suppose. And you do have the metal proper European sort of hook and loop style couplings, which again will work with other locomotives from Europe, which is great. I don't believe they're NEM, so I will only be able to use this with couplings of the same kind unless I do some mods, but I don't think that's terrible. Also, as you can see, we do have underframe detail. The bogie detail's not too bad. It is all just moulded, nothing separately fitted there, but it's reasonably convincing, isn't it? At least reasonably. The front end's not bad. You can see there's quite a lot of moulded detail going on around there. There is no cab detail, unfortunately, because that whole area is taken up with the motor. Well, not the motor. I assume the motor must be centrally mounted, but the mechanism at the very least for one of the bogies. So not an awful lot of detail there. But it is complete with the ladders, as you can see, which are just all a part of the moulding. But yeah, I mean, the detail's all there, isn't it? Obviously, you can pay a lot more and get a lot more detailed model, but in the UK at least, for 20 odd quid, which is about what I've paid for this, if you think about it, I don't think you can really get anything better than this in terms of detail. Yes, it's not amazing, but for the money, it pretty much is, especially when you consider that it's all-wheel drive. That's really quite amazing stuff. So I'm not going to look at the wagons. I don't think I will put you through that. I'm just going to go ahead and set everything up, and for that, I can feel a bit of a time lapse coming on. Alright folks, it is all set up, and I have to say the value for money here is astonishingly good. To be absolutely clear, the quality is not amazing. As I say, we've got steel track here, which is inclined to rust. If you want better track, you can buy some nickel silver track, which is a little bit better. The buildings were okay. The solar panel depot factory thing there was a bit frustrating to build because of its roof. The containers are fine, you can put those together. I only did one, but you could do the rest if you wanted to, and they would be quite fun to transport around. The loco itself is not too bad mechanically. I took the body off, and as you can see, the design inside is not that different from much more expensive Helgen and Bachmann diesels, where you've got this beautiful centrally mounted motor, which is huge. Presumably that's just 3-pole, I don't expect that will be anything expensive. And then it's got the dual drive shafts to the bogies. And as you can see, looking at the underside of the bogies, they are indeed all-wheel drive, which is really, really good. These things here on the top and bottom are the pickups, so we only have 4 pickups per bogie, which leaves us to 8 out of 12 in all, which isn't too bad at all. And I have set up the controller, as you can see, it's just behind the loco here, and I'm going to give this its first ever try. So this should be really, really interesting. How does this loco run? How does it pull? Are you going to be able to use this on your model railway as a proper locomotive? Well, let's give it a try. First things first though, obviously I am using this Mehano controller. It's not my proper Gauge Master one, so I will have to try it on that later on. But if this doesn't do a good slow speed right now, it doesn't mean necessarily that it's a bad loco. It could be the controller's fault. Anyway, does it work? That's the question. I'm going to turn this up very gently, see what happens. Ooh. Hey, well it works. That's the first amazing thing. Can I change direction? Just a little click. Wow, that is really, really quite a good controller. I like that. I tell you what, this loco's not terrible. I mean, it's not doing a great crawl. It sort of stops at any lower than that, but it's quiet, it's pretty smooth. This is really not bad. For 50 quid, this is incredibly good. Let's get it started properly. Let's go to about 50%, shall we? Do you know what? For the money, this is incredibly good, I think. Like I say, £18 more than Hornby Junior. You've got a full electric train set with a controller that you can actually operate yourself, which is great fun. No buttons on the loco to mess around with. You've got more rolling stock, you've got a track mat, you've got more buildings to make. Absolutely wonderful, really, really good value for money. And the loco is really good as well. It's very basic in terms of detail, and the mechanism isn't going to win any awards, but for a very, very basic starter locomotive, it ticks all of the boxes. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, so the train set itself is fine, that's a pass. As you'll notice, by the way, I didn't include the big poo. I haven't done anything with that yet. If you really wanted to mess around with it, you could, and then you'd have 2 tunnels on the layout, which would be awesome. Now though, I'm going to put this onto my normal railway. I'll try it on my Gauge Master controller and see how it runs on there. As it stands though, for the money, this comes highly recommended if you're looking to get started on a budget. Really not bad at all. I'd also like to point out that the controller that came with this is fantastic. It's way better than the controller that comes with even Hornby's very expensive train sets. It's superb. Is it as good as the Gauge Master? No, but then you can pay 80 quid for those, can't you? I paid 50 for the entire train set. Look at this. I've got the Peckett set up, and I'm just going to turn it up. It's so nice and controllable. Look at that, nice slow speed. It doesn't scream. It obviously doesn't have really sort of harsh PWM on it or anything like that. Look at that, you get some beautiful performance out of it. Get yourself a Mehano controller if you want a budget controller. It feels great to use, there's some great tactile feedback on it. It's a wonderful controller, really, really good. Fantastic. Okay, so there it is then, all down onto my main layout, and I guess I'm probably crazy, but I really do like the loco. Yes, it's not very detailed, but from any sort of distance, it really does a good job of pretending to be a proper model, doesn't it? It just looks fantastic. Anyway, so the loco's very light, it only weighs 250 grams. However, because it is all-wheel drive, it's got an awful lot of power. It can manage about 21 coaches, which is not bad at all. That's 0.32 newtons. So it's on my proper Gauge Master controller now, so let's do another test and see if it can actually do a slow speed. Let's see. And by the way, do look out for the bulb, because there's a bulb inside this cab, so there is indeed a working light on this. Okay, here we go. So it is slower than on the Mehano controller, but it is a little noisier, it must be said, and it's not exactly fantastic. It must be said that this really isn't capable of doing very much of a crawl. That's about as slow as it can go, and it looks as though it's going to explode because it's sort of juttering and, I don't know, buzzing. But it's not terrible. I mean, for the money, it's not terrible, and at a higher speed like that, for example, it becomes perfectly smooth, and then the train looks half decent, doesn't it? But to be quite honest with you, I'm more than happy with this. Because the loco itself only cost around 20 quid, you can't go wrong. And frankly, the train set is worth it just for the controller and for the loco. Controller, best budget locomotive controller I've ever tried, without a doubt. And the loco, once again, probably one of the best budget locos I've ever seen. I've never seen a loco that is better than this for 20 odd quid, you know, astonishing stuff. Anyway, let's get it going and just see how it handles my proper layout. Proper layout. Yeah, that's not quite true. Anyway, here we go. So it can't crawl, but besides that, it's a great runner, as you can tell. As all the Mehano locos I've ever tested seem to be. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. That is great. So there's obviously quite a lot to think about with this one, but I'm going to put up a poll based on what you've seen today. Would you buy a Mehano train set? Obviously, there are a lot of cons. The quality of the packaging leaves quite a lot to be desired. The track is steel, so it's not quite as good as nickel silver. The buildings are a bit difficult to put together. The locomotive is quite light and a little bit fragile. But then there's quite a lot of pros as well. The controller is fantastic. The loco is mechanically really quite good. You get an awful lot for your money, including all those buildings and the containers and the big elephant dung. And you get quite a lot more rolling stock than you do with other train sets of a similar or even much higher price. So overall, for me, I would say yes, I would buy Mehano train sets, and I'm thinking of trying the Steam set. We'll see how that goes. So let's take a look at my ratings for the Mehano cargo train set. Now the detail was very basic, and I should point out that when I say that, I'm not criticising this. It is basic by design, but I use a standard rating system for every model I review, so I have to be fair and say that, yeah, the detail wasn't great. 1.5 stars I've given it. Yeah, I think that really speaks for itself, and I doubt anyone would really disagree with that. For performance, I have awarded this 4 stars. It was going to be 3 because the loco can't crawl very well and it's a little bit light, etc, etc. But I've added a star for the controller because that controller has genuinely impressed me for, once again, how much the set costs. So 4 star on performance. The power was pretty good. Like I say, 21 coaches for a loco that light isn't bad at all, so that's pretty reasonable. The mechanism I've given 3.5 star. On the one hand, it's a really decent mechanism. We've got all-wheel drive, quite a lot of pickups. On the downside, it's all pretty plasticky. We've got a 3-pole motor, plastic chassis, as I say, and no proper bearings. So the mechanism's okay, but it's not amazing, but it's more than good enough for a train set loco, I would say. The quality is 3 star, I'm going to give it. I was going to give it 4 because everything in the train set is pretty good, but that packaging was really quite poor, so I've knocked a mark off for the packaging. Besides that, everything is a little bit plasticky, particularly the loco, as I say, mainly plastic, and I normally do knock off a mark on quality if the loco is mainly plastic, so I've treated this the same. For value though, for £52.89, especially compared with the likes of the Hornby Junior train sets, this is astonishing, so I've awarded it 5+ on the value for money. Absolutely wonderful. Overall then, that is 7.00 out of 10. It's a fantastic train set, really. Whether you buy this will very much depend on what you want and what you're looking for in a train set, but overall I can highly recommend this. Into the logbook it goes then. There we go, 7th above the Dapol Great Western Rail car and below the Hornby Standard Class 4. Yes, overall very impressive stuff. So I don't know about you folks, but I really enjoyed that. It wasn't 100% fantastic. There were quite a lot of features that I would change, I reckon. But overall, for the money, very impressed. So I hope you enjoyed seeing that one. Do let me know down in the comments what you thought. Do you have any Mehano train sets? Have you ever heard of them? Have you ever seen a different one? What are they like in your experience? So far, I think this has been a pretty good start for me and Mehano. So we'll see how it goes. For now though, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you very, very soon. Cheers everybody.